Hey guys, my name is Michal Hucko and welcome to another video of our Pandas tutorial. In this video we're gonna talk about the topic where we're gonna describe how to work with multiple Pandas data frames in the same time, how to combine the results of the Pandas data frame and how to join these data frames. These are quite of the essential functionality of the Pandas, so I hope you will find something useful for your use case. So let's jump into the Jupyter lab. And as you can see, I'm running the sixth file from the GitHub link in the description below. So let's start with the scenario where we will have two data frame 1 and data frame 2, which both are created from the JSONs or dictionaries in this case, right? So the first one is a little bit longer while the second one is shorter, and there is also some discrepancy between the contents of this file. So most simple and most intuitive way how to combine two data frames is with the pandas concat function. So notice this function we are calling upon the pandas module. So we are not calling a function of a data frame, but we are calling a module function. And this module function allows us to combine as much data frames as we want. In this case, we are combining two of them, but feel free to experiment with, let's say, 4 of them. So you need to run the previous commands, of course. And then when you press this command, you can see that all the data frames has been stacked one after another. So, but notice the index in this case. So as I mentioned, the index shouldn't be unique, and this is also the case. There are multiple zeros in this case. So if you run some log function or the log attribute with the index selector of 0 in this case, you will see how many of the results we will get. So before we combine 4 data frames and each has a 0 index, so we will get 4 results. But wait, what will change if you run the same brackets within the ilog? Because the ilog refers to the index location, so the numerical location within the data frame. Only one row will be returned, right? And this is the main distinction. Log stands for the value selector, while the ilog stands for the index selector. So I hope now is it much more clear for you how this log and ilog works, one compared to another. Okay, so now in order to solve this issue with the multiple zeros in the index, you can call a function which is called the reset index basically. And the reset index, what it does, it will reset the index, and moreover it will create one additional column with the old index, so you will not forget it. You can even, if you don't want this additional column, because this is the output of the function, right? And if you don't want this additional column because you want to just get rid of the old index, you can just provide here attribute called drop and set it to true, and you won't get it back. You can immediately, yeah, as you can see, this is not an in-place operation. Again, you need to put the in-place true there if you want to directly adjust the temp data frame, right? So let's talk about write contact. So write concat. So imagine in this case we were concatenating two data frames, one under each other. But there are some cases when you want to concat the data frames one next to each other, right? So you want to glue the other data frame on the right side of the old data frame, right? So the way how to do it is to specify the axis parameter. Out of the box, the axis in concat is set to 0, so we are stacking it on row. And if you want to stack it next to each other, then you need to specify the axis to 1. So if you run it like this, you will see we will get something like this. Yeah, so as you can see in this case, the pandas set these columns to float. That's the difference between the integer columns in the previous one. So and now again, the same situation as with the log before. In this case, we have multiple A columns, so when you run command like this, it will return the data frame because there are 2 columns with the name A. So just beware this fact that when you are gluing one data frame next to each other, there are the same names for the columns. This can be quite confusing, so just bear it in mind to change the columns. Well, let's go next, and one of the most important functionality of the pandas is also joining two data frames. Well, joining is a quite common practice or common functionality in the relational databases when tables are joined together. But if you are new to joins, just watch this video, then maybe go to the Google and read something more about joins. There are a variety of joins, And I'm not, well, the purpose of this video is not going through the explanation of what is joining and how many types of joins do we know and how to apply them in the Pandas, but we are just going to the join functionality in this case, so feel free to check it out later. So imagine we have these two data frames. One is with the first, second, third columns and these values, and the other one is like this. So you can see these are the data frames. I can run these for you so we can run the comments. Now, let's say you want to join one data frame to each other. You can do it with the concat and setting the parameter, the argument join, where you specify the type of join, right? So in this case, let's join df1 to df2 and specify the join parameter to outer. In this case, you are joining to the index of the data frame. Beware that they have only two index values common, the number 3 and number 4. For this reason, the results looks like this, right? So as you can see, there is the outer join where we are joining the columns because the axis is set. Sorry, in this case we are using the columns, and because they have the first and second column together, we are merging it to columns because the axis is set to 0. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. So if you want to join it on the index, you need to specify axis to 1, which is another example. So as you can see, because we are joining to columns, because both of these examples have the first and second column, they were glued onto each other, and for each of the columns which were missing, none values were filled there, right? So the same thing here. You can also use something which is called inner join, which is using only the common elements as a result table. So only, for example, this is inner join, and because the rows 3 and 4 were common for both of these data frames, the result data frame contains only the 3 and 4 columns. As you can see, the columns are being repeated, right? Yeah. One of the advantages is to use when you want to join is to use something which is a join method of the data frame. So before we were running this concat, which enabled us to join as many data frames as we want. We can put here up to whatever number data frames we want. But sometimes we want to change the name of the columns, as I showed you, because then we are getting these duplicate columns. And when we want to fix this, we can use the method of the data frame. And now we are joining to df1 to df2. We are setting the join. This is a left join where we right suffix the df2 with the second. As you can see, there was the left join happening, and all the columns which were common for the second data frame were remained with this right suffix. This can be very handy when you have the data frames with repeated column names and you want to just override the names. So in this case, you can use the join. But beware, you can join this way only 2 data frames compared to the concat where you can join as many data frames as you want. Now, if this was helpful for you, there is a big chapter in the Pandas documentation about joining, and there you can find all the other joins which you want. The right join, the outer join, the inner join, yes. And then you can also check their best practices, how to do it as fast as possible. Because, Pandas is optimized for working with big data, and if you are looking for some optimal solution, you can find it here on the link in the documentation. Okay, guys. That was a short video about concatenating and joining data frames in the Pandas. I hope I help you and I give you some intuition about how these things works behind the scenes. I hope I will see you in the next video.